There are 4 bricks sitting in a pile behind every hardware store in America that can replace your entire camp stove setup forever, not reduce your fuel costs, not supplement your propane, replace it permanently. 4 ordinary bricks arranged in a specific pattern create a combustion chamber so efficient it boils water in under 4 minutes, using nothing but a handful of twigs you pick up off the ground. No propane canister, no butane cartridge, no lighter fluid, no $300 camp stove with a brand name stamped on the side. Just 4 bricks, a few dry sticks, and a match. The United States military tested this exact configuration for field cooking in remote deployment zones. The United Nations distributed it across 3 continents as the most fuel-efficient cooking method ever documented. Engineers at one of the most respected research centers in Oregon measured its thermal output and found it burns up to 90% less fuel than an open campfire while producing almost zero smoke. And it was invented by civilizations that never had access to a hardware store. They did not stop teaching this because it failed. They stopped because a 4-brick cooking system that runs on free fuel from the forest floor cannot sell propane refills. And what cannot sell refills cannot generate quarterly revenue. This is the story of the rocket stove, the oldest, cheapest, most efficient cooking system ever built, and the one the outdoor industry prays you never learn to assemble. Welcome to Asian Guy Explained. If these stories matter to you, hit subscribe and the bell. This is where we dig up what the industry buried. Now let me take you back to where fire and engineering first collided. Long before the first Coleman stove rolled off an assembly line, every ancient civilization that cooked with fire understood one fundamental principle. Contain the flame, control the airflow, and you multiply the heat while cutting the fuel in half. In ancient China, rural communities built clay cooking channels as early as 200 BC that funneled fire through a narrow insulated path directly beneath a cooking surface. These channels used a fraction of the wood that an open fire consumed and concentrated every unit of heat exactly where the pot sat. In sub-Saharan Africa, the 3-stone fire has been the dominant cooking method for over 3,000 years. 3 stones arranged in a triangle with fuel fed from one side and a pot balanced on top. Simple, effective, and the foundation of every contained fire cooking system that followed. By the medieval period, European field armies were building trench stoves from stacked stones and packed earth that could feed an entire regiment on a bundle of sticks that would barely sustain a single open campfire for an hour. In South Asia, the chula stove made from mud and clay has been the backbone of village cooking for centuries. Every one of these systems across every continent arrived at the same conclusion independently. A contained fire with directed airflow is not just more efficient than an open flame, it is a fundamentally different technology. That is not folklore. That is convergent engineering proven across 3,000 years and dozens of cultures. Fast forward to 1982. A researcher named Larry Winiarski was working at the Provecho Research Center in Cottage Grove, Oregon. Winiarski was not a corporate engineer designing products for retail shelves. He was a humanitarian scientist obsessed with a single question. How do you give the poorest communities on Earth the most efficient cooking technology possible using materials they already have? He studied every historical contained fire system he could find. The Chinese clay channels, the African 3-stone fires, the South Asian chulas, and then he refined them all into one design, the rocket stove. The principle is devastatingly simple. Create an insulated L-shaped combustion chamber. Fuel enters horizontally at the bottom. Flames travel upward through a narrow vertical chimney. The insulated walls prevent heat from escaping sideways, and the chimney shape creates a powerful draft that pulls air into the combustion zone automatically. This accelerated airflow does something extraordinary. It causes near complete combustion of the fuel. An open campfire burns wood at roughly 10 to 15% efficiency. Most of the heat radiates outward into the air. Most of the fuel turns to smoke before it fully combusts. A rocket stove burns wood at up to 60% efficiency. The fuel is consumed almost entirely. The smoke is nearly zero because the gases that would normally escape as visible smoke are instead burned inside the chamber as secondary combustion. The United Nations adopted rocket stove designs for refugee camps across East Africa and Southeast Asia. Independent testing confirmed that rocket stoves use up to 90% less fuel than open fires and reduce harmful smoke emissions by over 70%. A peer-reviewed study published in the journal Energy for Sustainable Development documented that rocket stoves boil 1 liter of water in under 4 minutes using less than 300 grams of dry wood. A standard open campfire requires over a kilogram for the same task. Now here is where the story turns. The global camping stove market generates over $4.5 billion in annual revenue. The portable fuel canister market, those small propane and butane cartridges you buy for $5 to $8 each, adds another $2 billion per year on top of that. Every camp stove on the market is designed around one economic principle. The stove is the handle, and the fuel is the revenue. A stove that runs on twigs you pick up for free at any campsite on Earth does not fit inside that model. You cannot sell a monthly fuel subscription for fallen branches. You cannot create a brand loyalty program around pine cones. You cannot charge a premium for dead sticks that carpet every forest floor on the continent. And you absolutely cannot justify a $300 backpacking stove when 4 bricks from a demolished wall do the same job for $0. So the outdoor industry did what every threatened industry does. They did not attack the technology. They simply made sure you never encountered it. Walk into any major outdoor retailer and count the shelf space dedicated to propane stoves, butane cartridges, liquid fuel systems, and branded fire starting products. Now look for a rocket stove. You will not find one, not because the technology does not work, but because a product that eliminates the need for consumable fuel eliminates the entire revenue model the store depends on. You cannot patent 4 bricks arranged in an L shape because the design has existed in various forms for over 3,000 years. There is no intellectual property to protect, no proprietary formula to license, no exclusive distribution to control. The camp stove industry does not fear a better stove. It fears a free one. If you have made it this far, you already know more about efficient outdoor cooking than 99% of campers and backpackers combined. Subscribe and share this with someone who deserves to stop paying for fuel that the forest floor gives away for nothing. This video is just the surface. I've collected everything the outdoor industry does not want you to know, all inside the complete Asian Guy Explained vault. Rocket stove blueprints with exact dimensions for maximum thermal output, emergency fire techniques that military field manuals included, and civilian training guides quietly removed. Off-grid cooking methods that work without gas, propane, electricity, or any purchased fuel. Over 10 guides in one place, no fluff. Straight to the point. The link is in the description. But stay right here because what comes next is the part they really do not want you to hear. Here is exactly how to build a 4-brick rocket stove in under 5 minutes, and it is almost embarrassingly simple. You need 4 standard clay bricks, the kind that cost less than 50 cents each at any hardware store or sit in free piles at construction sites across the country. Place 2 bricks flat on the ground, parallel to each other with a gap between them roughly 4 inches wide. This is your fuel feed channel. Set the 3rd brick across the back end of the 2 base bricks, standing upright to close off the rear of the channel. Place the 4th brick across the front top edge of the channel, leaving the front open for feeding sticks. You now have an L-shaped combustion chamber with an open fuel entrance at the front and a vertical chimney gap at the top rear. Place your pot or pan directly on top of the chimney opening. The gap between the bricks lets you feed sticks, twigs, pine cones, bark, or any dry biomass into the horizontal channel. The fire ignites, and the chimney effect pulls air through the channel automatically. The flame shoots upward directly onto the bottom of your cooking vessel. Every single unit of heat goes exactly where you need it. You will boil water faster than most commercial camp stoves. You will use a fraction of the fuel. And you will produce almost no visible smoke because the airflow design causes secondary combustion of the gases before they escape. Total cost if you buy the bricks new, under $2. Total cost. If you find them at any construction site or demolition pile, absolutely nothing. Your fuel is every dry stick, twig, and pine cone within walking distance of your campsite. Your operating cost per meal is 0. Your operating cost per year is 0. Your operating cost for the rest of your life is 0. A backpacker in the Appalachian Trail community documented his switch from a $250 canister stove to a rocket stove configuration built from found stones for an entire through-hike season. Over 60 days on the trail, he spent exactly $0 on fuel. He cooked every meal using dead twigs gathered within 10 feet of each campsite. His total cooking gear weight dropped by over a pound because he no longer carried fuel canisters. Now I need to be honest with you about the limitations, because this is not magic. Rocket stoves produce real fire, so they are not permitted in areas with active burn bans or fire restrictions. In extremely wet conditions where all available wood is soaked, getting the initial combustion started takes patience and proper tinder preparation. The 4-brick design is not easily portable for ultralight backpacking where every ounce matters. It is ideal for car camping, overlanding, base camp setups, homestead cooking, and emergency preparedness. For deep backcountry travel, you would build one at camp using found stones rather than carrying bricks in your pack. The limitations are real, but narrow. The suppression is what is inexcusable. This knowledge did not disappear because it stopped working. It disappeared because it worked so well that an entire industry had to pretend it never existed. For 3,000 years, humans cooked meals with contained fire, controlled airflow, and free fuel from the ground beneath their feet. No canister, no subscription, no brand name. Just physics that nature perfected long before any corporation opened its doors. 4 bricks and a handful of sticks. That is all it ever took. The camp stove industry generates $4.5 billion a year, selling you a solution to a problem that was solved before the Roman Empire fell. Every propane canister you have ever purchased was a tax on forgotten knowledge. Every butane cartridge was a receipt for something you should have never been charged for. But now you know. And 4 bricks are not complicated enough to forget. If this vault changed how you think about cooking outdoors, subscribe and share this video right now. Every share sends this knowledge to someone the outdoor industry prayed would never find it. Every subscription keeps this channel digging into vaults they thought were sealed shut forever. The next vault opens soon, and what is buried inside that one is even heavier than what you heard today.